So let's start a vlog at the end of a road trip, shall we? We won't really. We will start the vlog halfway through the road trip, funny enough. But just to put this series of vlogs in context, what is it all about? 24 postcodes and then none. I guess it really stems from the fact that I've been thinking about this vlog for some time now and doing this particular trip, and the 24 postcodes are really associated with places that I kind of laid down roots, so to speak, and actually made home. Whether this be from when I was a kid with my parents, etc., going from place to place, or by myself where I, rent a property, etc., and buy furniture, expand on my possessions, etc. But essentially sort of lay roots and pay bills, utility bills, etc., etc., therefore necessitating a postcode for all of these said things to be delivered to and posted to. So I guess that's where it comes from. I can't really hazard a guess, to be honest with you, in terms of actual places where I've lived, bearing in mind that in between the 24 postcodes there are places where there were floors that I stayed on, spare rooms that I stayed in, etc., etc. I'm not counting all of those. These are the places that I kind of settled down, albeit for a short period of time, whether it be 6 months, a year, but a place that I could actually essentially call home. So that's where it comes from. 24 postcodes, that's exactly how many addresses I have properly lived in. And the none is here, the van, Neo. And yeah, it was something that I'd been thinking about for a while, and I decided to finally do it. I had a bit of spare time, so decided to go for it. And so the journey basically starts at the most southerly point in Christ Hospital in West Sussex, and I take my way by road as much as possible through all of the 24 postcodes and end up in Glasgow, the furthest north of all of the places that I've lived. Now, the journey from Christ Hospital was actually quite a good place to start. It's midway through all of the postcodes, so it's number 10 through to 14. It's the most southerly point, and what it did also allow me to do was to actually go by train, because I didn't want to sort of take the van into central London, and some of the places would have been quite difficult to sort of park up and get the shots. I mean, for the most part, this journey I've managed to park up almost outside every property. There's a few places where I've had to sort of park it around the corner or down the street or in a car park and walk to the place, but for the most part I've managed to sort of get outside the actual property. And some of the London ones it was just easier to do by train. So the actual journey starts from Christ Hospital. I go from Christ Hospital station, I take the train to London Victoria, I then get on the underground and go to Brixton. I do a number of properties in Brixton. I then walk up to the Oval and then pick up the Northern Line, go back a couple of stops to Clapham North and take in a property there, the place where I was sort of, I say born, I wasn't born there, I was born in St Thomas's Hospital, London, Lambeth, but this was the place that I grew up as a baby and a toddler. So my first place. The following day I take the tube, taking the Piccadilly line to Northfield Station to do Ealing. Then I'm back to Victoria to get on the train back to Christ Hospital, and then I do the filming in Christ Hospital. I drive from Christ Hospital up the M23, around the M25, down the A13, and I pick up all of the East London addresses. So I pick up Barking, the 2 addresses in Hornchurch, and then over to Romford. And then from Romford I drive over to my mum's in Essex, in Hawthorne. From there I then go up the road to Bishop Stortford, taking Bishop Stortford and around Stansted, then take the M11 north, A1, stop over in Doncaster prior to going to Hull via the M62, do all of the Hull area, and then back along the 1079 to do all of York, A19 to Selby, another stopover, and then from the A19 pick up the A1, go across the A66, pick up the M6 and the M74 all the way to Glasgow, and that's where the whole trip ends. And I do this piece from a lovely campsite in the middle of the Ayrshire countryside. I guess this is a sort of an odd place to start this vlog, but thinking about it, it kind of does make sense in one way or other. So we're starting from address number 10 out of the 24 addresses that I had. And in a way it's kind of quite a good place to start, because where I am is at Christ Hospital, and I had 5 addresses within a 6-year period, over a 6-year period when I worked here and lived here. So it kind of is the halfway point, not only just in my age, but in terms of places where I live. This is the exact halfway point. So that this would be address 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14. I actually had 6 places. I lived in 6 different locations, but I'm only going to count 5 of them because of them being genuine in terms of the postcode. But yeah, this is where we're going to start the vlog. So we're starting the vlog outside one of the main gates of the school where I used to work. I wasn't able to film within the grounds, unfortunately, despite the fact that there are no kids here, etc, etc, but there is a summer school here, or a summer camp, so I wasn't allowed to film, and this is the closest I could get, just outside one of the gates, and yeah, so you're gonna have to bear with. And so what I'll do is I'll just put photographs that I can find online of the addresses, if I can find them, of the particular places that I lived in. But a good place to start this particular series of videos, mainly because it was a halfway point, but in terms of travelling and circumnavigating the country, this is the most southerly point that I ever lived in. So Christ Hospital was just outside of Horsham in West Sussex, and so it kind of makes sense to sort of start from here and then basically navigate my way north until I get to Glasgow, which is the furthest north that I lived. I had 6 years, just over 6 years, nearly 7 years here, and yeah, there were a lot of amazing times had here. Met some incredible people. Didn't take the opportunities that I should have, possibly, so I have a few regrets. But overall, they were a pretty happy 7 years or so here. This was kind of almost like a turning point within my life as well. After here, my life changed quite considerably, and went down a particular branch line, and obviously more twists and turns ahead has got me to where I am now. But yeah, it was a good place. This is where I first started to learn to drive, because up until that point, everywhere I had lived, I just used public transport. And the moment that I got here, I was now in this position where actually owning a car was sort of a prerequisite. So I started to learn to drive here in my latter years of living here. So Cross Hospital Station was a necessity. I used the station sometimes, I don't know, twice, 3 times a week. I used to take the train into Horsham to do my shopping, and then either get a taxi back or the train back. I used to take the train regularly into London to meet up with friends, going to gigs, parties, you name it, doing stuff with the band. So yeah, that little rail station was a real godsend. A nice reason to start off the whole video series from here is because also it gives me a good opportunity to be able to park the van somewhere reasonably safe, and from here I can jump on the train and go from Cross Hospital to London Victoria. It was a journey that I used to do a lot. I used to get my fix of Gatwick Airport and keep my fingers crossed that the plane would cross over the runway threshold just in time. I think it only happened on very, very few occasions. And it took me through South London, where I grew up as a child, and going past Battersea Bridge and memories of that with my aunt and everything, and Battersea Park, etc. And yeah, the trip that I've taken recently to do this series of videos has been like a real eye-opener, because I haven't been back to this site in something like 18 years, I'm going to say 18, 19 years. So it was a long time. And taking that train into London Victoria, gosh, there were so many changes, so many things had changed. The skyline of London is just changing. It's almost changes as quick as the skyline of Dubai. It's just insane. So it's been a real sort of interesting trip down memory lane. So Christ Hospital, the actual places that I lived at were, I originally started in Peel House, but I was only there for a couple of weeks. I was in a room, and then the first place that I got proper was a flat at the back of Lee Huntby, and I was there for, I guess, a year. And then from Lee Huntby I then moved one stop along, or two houses along I think, to Barnes A, and was at the back of Barnes A for about another year or so. Decorated that place quite nicely, got it all lovely, had to move out again. From Barnes A I then moved off the site to a beautiful house called Stammerham North, and my old boss used to live next door in Stammerham South, which was kind of attached to the same house, but it was two separate houses, and I lived in Stammerham North along with a couple of others. It was sort of split into sort of rooms and flats, and they made a special flat which was divided. I had a front room at the front, and then the rest of the kitchen and bedroom and bathroom was at the back of the house, which I had to walk through the shared hallway. It was a bit of a weird situation, but it was a nice house right by the lake. Used to have lots of parties there. It was a real good hoot. Yeah, many memories about that house. I then had to move from there because the bursar at the time, a little bit of trivia here for you, was a Mr. Launchbury, and his son, Joe Launchbury, aka Wasps rugby player, England rugby player, he was just a lad, and that particular family were responsible for kicking me out of North Stammerham, or Stammerham North. So I moved from there, and I moved into an upstairs flat at the back of Lamb A, I think it was. And in fact I shared that flat, if I remember right. I shared that flat with another teacher, and I was there for a few months waiting to then go into a brand new flat in one of the sixth form sort of colleges called Grecians East. There were two of them. There was Grecians East and Grecians West, and I lived in Grecians East. And from that point the writing was on the wall, because I heard that somebody was going to be moving into my flat, but nobody had bothered to tell me as to what flat I was moving into. So I kind of put all my ducks in order and decided to find a new job, and I moved out before getting into a awkward, difficult situation with people explaining why they wanted me out, etc, etc, with no place for me to go. So that was the end of my tenure here at Christ Hospital. So 5 places: Lee Hunt B, Barnes A, Stammerham North, Lamb A, Grecians East, and a very, very brief moment in Peel right at the beginning. But those were the 5 addresses of Christ Hospital. But yeah, 6, nearly 7 years at Christ Hospital. It was a decent stint, and was very much a pivotal point within my life. And I look back fondly at the experiences I had here, the people I met, the friends I made, friends I've even lost from here. Yeah, this place sort of certainly holds like a special place in the old corazón.